Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Sonic Spinball. In the last we started off the game and now we're in the machine. This is probably my least favorite level in the game because for one thing this is where they increase the emerald count from 3 to 5 for every stage. But also, the amount of thin passageways you need to get Sonic into in order to get all the emeralds here in a good pattern and aiming yourself to get in them is just a pain in the ass. The first emerald I like to go to here is on the very bottom right of the stage here. There's two ways you can get this, actually. If you look at behind where the flippers are right now, there's a rotating circle. That showcases where the little circle that the Chaos Emerald is in is rotated to. You can either just try to aim Sonic into there really precisely, or you could do the much safer thing and get on this platform and jump into the little gap above the platform on the far right. Doing that 2 or 3 times will make the wheel that the Chaos Emerald is in get frozen in the position where you can easily access it right there. From there, the shots are just going to get even more precise, though. Another mechanic this stage has that's unique to it is that there's a platform that you land on with Sonic and then raise a flipper on. And while the flipper is raised, the platform will actively also start rising up along a track, and then you can just time your shot off it from there to reach certain areas. With that said, easily the most pain-in-the-ass shot in the level is on one of these on the opposite side of the stage from me right now on the far left. It's usually like the last or second to last Chaos Emerald I get, but the shot you have to make to get into the area off one of these where the Chaos Emerald is just absurdly small given the rate at which Sonic jumps off. Something to note about Sonic's control in this game when you're on a straight platform, though. Sonic jumps higher than you think he does in terms of what he can grab onto. On top of that, while you're grabbing onto a platform to swing onto something, you do technically have invincibility frames, as we saw back in Toxic Caves for a brief second near the very start of the LP. But don't underestimate Sonic's ability to grab stuff. He can do pretty well with that. Here on the center of the stage, we got all these cages. These actively all contain animals that you can free for extra points, but you specifically want to bump into the bumper on the very center 3 times, because the next Chaos Emerald is in the very center cage. Speaking of animals and roboticizing, though, we should probably talk about the game's plot real quick. To quote the manual directly, Spinball Vengeance. The evil scientist Dr. Robotnik has unleashed his most diabolical plot yet to turn the animals of planet Mobius into robots. His monstrous contraption, the Vego-Fortress, built on Mount Mobius, is already transforming happy creatures into mindless slaves. Robotnik's fiendish machine draws its power from the mountain's volcano. Fiery lava fuels the lethal pinball defense system that protects the fortress. Sonic and his pal Tails mount an air assault on the fortress only to be blasted mid-flight by Robotnik's cannons. Sonic is knocked into deep waters near the volcano, but he has friends in wet places and is saved at the last moment. Sonic sneaks into the toxic caves below the fortress. From there, he infiltrates Robotnik's vast and deadly defenses. In no time at all, Sonic starts swiping emeralds, freeing the animals of Mobius and dishing out hedgehog justice. Yo, Robotnik! You're in for a mountain of trouble now. Sonic is spinning into action. So, honestly, relatively box standard plot there. Oh, that was a lucky bounce. That's the really pain-in-the-ass shot there. I have probably had attempts at this level over the years where I just give up on the playthrough because I've had enough fun with it by that point, because I just get stuck trying to get into that specific Chaos Emerald room for upwards of like 15-20 minutes. Spinball is not a very long game, as you can tell by the fact we're already in the finale, but it concentrates its evil, I think is a good way to put it. Also, when it comes to reaching the boss for this specific stage, it's easiest to actually come back here to the top right and jump up here rather than go up to the top left and get to where the boss is from there. Now, we're about to reach the boss, but before we actually see it, worth noting, the boss heavily features flashing lights, namely blue and white flashing back and forth really rapidly, so watch out. This is the Vego-Machine. This is the roboticizer for the entire fortress, turning animals into robots. This boss isn't too hard to start, but it quickly becomes my least favorite boss when we reach the end of it. The first thing we need to do is bounce up to here and reach these electric currents on either side of it. Hitting one will bounce Sonic off of it, and you need to smash the pipes that are feeding the animals into the machine. I think it takes like 6, 7, 8 hits to damage them, which isn't too bad on the left, because if you hold like up to the left slightly, you'll just kind of follow the course of the ceiling in a really easy way to destroy both pipes. But if you're going from the right, for some reason, it doesn't feel like that works nearly as well. I can't quite tell why, though. Once you free the animals from each side, you need to destroy the machine itself, and that's where the fight gets to be a pain in the ass, even though it's not exactly, like, hard for it'll kill you reasons. It's just making the shot into the bottom chute of the Vego-Machine in order to bounce around in there quite a few times to do damage is a weirdly precise shot, despite how large the chute itself looks to be. I did a little bit of this last part, I believe, but there's a reason I'm speeding up these boss fights, because I think I'm here usually for like 5, 6, 7 minutes at a time, potentially. It's just not worth extending the playthrough's runtime for that, if that makes sense. Now, I already talked about the frustration this specific stage brings me in a couple of cases on top of not liking this boss fight. There's times I've played this game and just skipped this level using the level select by restarting the game and then going straight to level 4 from here. But in the case you're playing along or you're playing the game yourself and you get a game over, I would recommend instead of just starting the game over again from Toxic Caves, use the level select, which I believe, do I have that up? Yes, I do. Go to the options menu, take the first player controller and press A down, B down, C down, A, B up, A, C up, B, C up. Upon doing that, you'll hear a sound. If you go back to the title screen, you can then hold A and then press start for level 2, B and start for level 3, or C and start for level 4. Trust me, it goes a long way because, like I said, this is probably the hardest Genesis Sonic game, and honestly thinking about it, barring maybe trying to get special stages for, like, Sonic 2 and all that, potentially even the hardest classic-styled Sonic game, or at least classic era more accurately. The only reason I say potentially is, like, Sonic 2 on GameCube with that screen crunch really is rough, and there is just some weird moments of weird spikes and difficulty in some of the other games. That's the machine, though. I don't like the boss, I don't like certain Chaos Emeralds. This is easily my least favorite level in the game. Not to say that level 4 doesn't have its own moments of, let's say, absurdity. Time for our third bonus stage, and this one's a little funny in that it also references a different Western Sonic thing. Notably, its main hazard is Scratch from Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. Not the only game he's in either. He's also in Mean Bean Machine, which I'll be honest, I'll probably never take a look at because I'm not the biggest Puyo Puyo fan, and I'm also really bad at Puyo Puyo. That is actively, probably, if you just count it as one, the actually hardest Genesis-era Sonic game. So this bonus stages thing is you need to take care of all the scratches while also hitting the capsule several times to break it and get the flickies and other animals out of it. If you actively get behind the capsule here, it's very easy to do this one, but just because of the general setup of this, honestly the biggest threat is you bouncing a little too much and losing track of the pinball just due to how fast it could potentially be moving. I did potentially want to show off the exclusive bonus stage if you got every ring in a stage, but honestly, I just didn't really care to play the game some more after I finished the recording, because it doesn't come across too much in the gameplay of this playthrough, but I was just really frustrated on this day in specific, so I didn't really feel like playing more of it when I was done with it. And while that's kind of against how I tend to do my LPs, where I like to showcase as much of them as I can, trust me, that mindset actively burned me in the LP we're doing after this, which I haven't started editing yet, but just getting a little ahead of ourselves. I think I did a post about this on YouTube the other day. That's probably the LP I've put the most gameplay hours into, for reasons we'll see when we reach its post-game. Once we take care of the capsule, which once you actually take care of all the panels on it today, you don't really get much feedback on how close you are to destroying it at that point. We're going to be moving on to our final level, but there is notably a little cutscene first to see, so let's see what's happening. Welcome to Stage 4, Showdown. This is easily the most deadly stage in the game, if only because there's just more ways for the game to kill you in terms of bottomless pit adjacent things. For one thing, there's lava directly below you because we're near the top of the volcano. And while you can hit certain tabs to make rocks spawn in to save you, there's also a good amount of bottomless pit in this stage you need to watch out for. On top of the fact that if you lose progress in this stage, it takes a little bit to actively get back to the mini boards or towards the boss fight if you fall out of it, for instance. I'm going for probably the hardest Chaos Emerald in the game right now, where we need to actively bounce into these switches several times and then go for the Chaos Emerald in the middle. The precision needed to get into these buttons over and over again, but to get in that little central bit where the Chaos Emerald is This is one of the cases where I feel like it's genuinely easier to aim into something if you just don't influence Sonic's direction at all, because there is still momentum to Sonic's movement in midair as you influence it, and that can really bite you in the ass if you try to overuse it, but it's just one of those things you really have to feel out, which kind of describes the game in general, honestly. I know people who are pinball wizards who really like this game, but I also know quite a couple of pinball wizards who really, really don't like this game because of how Sonic feels in it compared to the other things. On top of the fact they're a little bit puristy, so the fact you can influence his direction at all doesn't really rub them the right way. The other 4 emeralds in this stage are all relatively low compared to a lot of the other ones in the other stages. Notably, they're all about the same altitude. We just need to actually find a way over to them, like hitting this particular hoop to make another flipper show up so we can get up here to this one. There's one right nearby where we need to hit a switch 3 more times in order to access something else in the stage. Showdown is a lot more of the same, and while there's a little more back and forth in this stage when it comes to reaching the area, actively getting the Chaos Emeralds here is a lot easier to me than in the machine. With that said, the boss can arguably be just about as annoying, but for radically different reasons. Yeah, we need to hit that switch right there 3 times to access where our next emerald is, and that shot is not easy to make. In the meanwhile, let's talk more about the game's development staff. Namely, next up is the art team, who is Tom Payne, Kurt Peterson, Brenda Ross, Katsuhiko Sato, and Craig Stitt. Tom Payne, outside of working on this, did general zone art for Sonic 2, Star Wars Dark Forces on both its console and DOS release. They did texture work. Indiana Jones and his desktop adventures, they were a game designer. But after that, they were on Empire Total War on Windows as a QA tester, and they were general support on Full Throttle's remaster as well. Kurt Peterson, outside of Spinball, was on Red Faction Guerrilla as additional QA and Full Spectrum Warrior as a character animator, as well as WWE Legends of WrestleMania as a tester. Brenda Ross, they were on this and Kid Chameleon as an artist. They were zone artists for Sonic 2. Dog's Your Computer Pet, the original 95-96 game, they were an animator on it. And they were also an artwork person on MDK on the PlayStation. Off the top of my head, I think Katsuhiko Sato was just a general artist for Sega and especially Sonic, but in terms of their active game credits, they were on this, they were on Pro Striker in both its original and perfect release on Genesis. Victory Goal on Saturn, they were a coordinator on art. Panzer Dragoon Saga, they were on the design team. Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, the original one in 07, they were on the 2D aspect side of that. And Phantasy Star Online 2, they were a graphic artist, and they're still in the credits for that to this day in New Genesis. Meanwhile, Craig Stitt started on Sonic 2 as a zone artist, and then they were an artist for Kid Chameleon. After Spinball, they were an animator on Comic Zone, art team for the Ooze, but then eventually they worked their way over to Insomniac and worked on all 3 of the original Spyro games. They were also a lead environmental artist on Ratchet and Clank. They were still in the credits for Going Commando and Up Your Arsenal. Meanwhile, their most recent credits outside of the Reignited trilogy is a special thanks thing. They were in Deadlocked Ratchet as just a general staff member. On top of that, notably, their art director was John Dugan, who started on TV Sports Football on the Amiga. But notable releases that I at least know the name of off the top of my head after that eventually just went to Spinball. They were in the special thanks for Comic Zone and the Ooze. Medal of Honor, Allied Assault, Breakthrough, and Pacific Assault, they were on the art team and 3D 2D assets team. Sim Animals on the DS, they were an artist. And Wings Remastered, they were a handbook, map, and illustration artist. After that, we get the sound and music effects team, which is relatively small in comparison. We got Barry Bloom, Brian Coburn, Howard Drawson, and OUI Multimedia. Barry Bloom started on Panic and Jurassic Park for the Sega CD as a sound engineer in some form, but after this they were on the Kamen Rider Zo Sega CD game in Japan, which was effectively just a Dragon Slayer adaptation of that movie. NFL 97, they were a musician. Wheel of Fortune on the 64, they did sound design. Jeopardy, same deal. But the most notable game after that I recognize the name of, they were on Battle Tanks Global Assault on the audio team. The Army Men series in general on Windows and PlayStation and N64, they were on all the music there. Brian Coburn is notably the composer for Echo the Dolphin on Genesis as well as Batman Returns on the Genesis. Really good soundtracks there. Echo the Dolphin on Sega CD, same deal. Jurassic Park Sega CD, same deal. Doom on the 32X, they did the music for it. Echo Tides of Time, sound effects and Foley. After the mid-90s, though, they worked on Mort the Chicken, Lord of the Rings Return of the King on GameCube as a sound designer, and their most recent thing is Dungeon Lords 2012, I think that is. Notable thing about Showdown is that its boss fight's a little atypical in that it's an active ship above the rest of the stage, and there's a couple ways you can reach it. You can either get into the windows on the far left and right, or you can jump through the bottom by reaching some missiles in the center of the overall stage. This stage is a little weird though in that, or this boss is a little weird though in that you actively need to hit a switch below Eggman a couple times before you can actually damage him. You especially want to do that to make the claws he has retract. I believe if you hit it too many times, that all just resets. When you have him in the state where you can hit him, you have a limited time before the switch resets itself, so you need to just hit yourself above him, avoid the jets, and then do the upwards of, I think, 10 or so hits to actively take him out. There's times where I've been playing this game and I get into a really good rhythm on hitting him here, and I go the entire 10 hits in a row on a single timer. There's times where that doesn't happen, but that's a lot more common than getting them all in a row. This fight is annoying more so in the case you actually fall out the jet, because getting back into it can be a nightmare compared to reaching the other bosses again. But with that blow, we're done. Probably the shortest Sonic LP I've done in a hot minute here off the top of my head. Annoying to reach, yes, but honestly getting that explosion effect is really satisfying. Upon beating Robotnik, you get your ultimate score tally, and from there we're going to see the ending. You do get notable bonuses for your rings, how many lives you had, and all that jazz. Pretty typical score attack and pinball score bonuses, really. So let's take a look at our ending and then talk about my thoughts on the game over the credits. Ha-ha! That man is dead. And now it's time for our credits and our high score tally with the really awful options music. I like values about Sonic Spinball. I think it has a really good soundtrack, except for this song in specific. I think it's got some pretty neat stylization on its sprites and gorgeous backgrounds. But I'm not a pinball guy, and even compared to other pinball games, I think the way Sonic feels in this is really slow and floaty. Mind you, you could speed that up a little bit by using the one option. But between that and the way the boards are designed, I just don't really like revisiting this one too much. It's a neat little novelty, though. So if you want to try something Sonic related and you don't want to revisit a platform you've already played, or you want to try something a little bit different, I'd say it's worth a look. It is a unique little bit here. But that's it. If I'm going to say something, play the Genesis version over the Game Gear version. The Game Gear version might honestly be one of the worst official Sonic releases just in general, between notable screen crunch, but also just somehow even worse collision. Yeah, not great to play that version. But with that, I'm gonna need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, have a great night, take care, and with this tiny little game out of the way, it's time for the Titan to begin. See you guys then.